The City of Bristol, providing beautiful parks, economic development, and a family-friendly community.
At order, August 8th, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please ask that the members please introduce themselves, starting by far right.
Board of Finance, Mike Lamoth.
John Smith, Board of Finance.
Ron Burns, Board of Finance.
Calvin Brown, City Council.
Anthony D'Amato, City Council.
Jody Zills-Gagney, City Council.
Cheryl Tebow, Board of Finance.
Dave Perleski, City Council.
Dave Mills, City Council.
Mary Fortier, City Council.
Jake Taylor, Board of Finance.
Town Clerk Therese Pack.
Assistant John LaBella.
And Mayor Ken Cockane. Item number 1.
Approval of minutes of the regular joint board meeting on July 11th, 2017, and the special meetings on June 20th, 2017, and June 28th, 2017.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
It's the consent calendar, and there are 7 items. 2A is to make an additional appropriation of $151,409 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund as of June 30th, 2017, funded by Code Enforcement Revenue. 2B is to make an additional appropriation of $500 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund as of June 30th, 2017, funded by a donation. 2C is to make an additional appropriation of $2,486,925 within the Public Works operating budget as of June 30th, 2017, funded by the Municipal Grants in Aid. 2D is to make an additional appropriation of $1,000 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund, funded by a donation for program supplies. 2E is to reduce the Community Development Block Grant Fund by $30,043 due to a reduction in the budget allocation from HUD. 2F is to make an additional appropriation of $2,895,096 within the School Readiness Operating Budget funded by the School Readiness Grant. And 2G is to make an additional appropriation of $18,756 within the School Readiness Operating Budget funded by the Quality Enhancement Grant.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3.
To increase the bonding appropriation for the Phase 1 of the Memorial Boulevard Community Cultural Center project and an approximately 750-seat theater by $7,887,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Go.
As I stated at the Board of Finance meeting, for the next few motions or resolutions, I will be voting no. The reason I'm voting no is I don't have enough information. I'm concerned about the sustainability of the theater arts program once we spend the $13 million plus dollars. The fiscal state of our state, we don't have any idea yet what type of municipal aid we're going to be receiving from the state. We're not sure of the construction costs yet for the renovations to the building. I'm just wondering what happens if the theater for some reason can't meet its operational expenses. As I stated earlier, I did look into the 990s for most of the theaters in the state of Connecticut, and most theaters struggle from year to year to make ends meet. So until I have more information regarding some of those questions, I'm a no vote.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to answer that statement by Commissioner Burns. I saw the list of the theaters that you were talking about, and every one of them is a standalone theater. This would be a theater that would in fact be housed in the same building theoretically if this plan went through with the Board of Finance, with the City Hall and the Board of Education and the other organization up on the hill. So I don't think we'd be looking at the same type of operational cost that certainly one of those theaters is dealing with. You know, as a standalone operation, of course, their costs are going to be considerably higher. I think in a situation like this, we're probably talking about a considerably different financial setup, operational setup as well. So I think we've got to also keep that in mind as well when we're comparing apples to oranges.
Any other discussion?
Through the chair, Mr. Lamoth, yes, what you said is correct, but basically what you said about the city moving in there or some other entity moving in there is still theoretical. Nothing's written in stone yet as to anything moving into there, other than the theater. So that's one of my concerns.
Anything else? Joe? Dave?
Again, through the chair, I kind of agree with both people, actually. We certainly, I think there is a need for another entity to move in, and I think we'll all agree to that. And I think that's the critical thing, is that we move on that at some point and decide exactly what's going to go there and what's best to go there, because it's a big building, but with another entity in there, I think it'll be something that would be able to sustain itself. So I do agree with both people, but we do have to look at both.
Joe?
Through the chair, there's three motions here. And the first one is, of course, to approve the amount to spend towards the theater. The second two are resolutions to free funding. And I'm going to vote no on the first item, but ironically, I'm going to vote yes on the second two, and I'll explain that in 1 second. Because the second two motions, number 5 and 6, allow us to appropriate funds to finish the final design stage of this project. They need a couple $100,000 more, and at the Board of Finance meeting, we allocated they could spend up to another $500,000. This would enable the drawings to be finalized to a next step and then go to planning and zoning. And that is one of my concerns, what planning and zoning will say. Is there adequate parking for 750 cars? That's questionable. Are there other considerations that P&Z will have? I have to remember that when this was presented 2 years ago, the cost was $7.1 million. It quickly escalated to 10, then 12, and now we're at 13.3, and we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. And that causes me great concern that once we invest and go down this road, how do you say no to a little bit more and a little bit more? So that's one of the reasons why I will be voting no on 3, but yes on 4 and 5. I have to agree that we haven't decided who will share this programming space with the theater, and this is a case of a tail wagging the dog. The cost to operate the bigger part of the school is enormous. When I was on the Memorial Boulevard Task Force, because we didn't have a clear financial picture, I created financial pro formas and try to budget out 20 years of revenues and expenditures to fund this theater. And this model, based on the input from the entire committee, and everybody had voices in this, what do we think heating will be, what do you think grants and donations would be, had a $300,000 revenue line for grants and donations as it was. And if we don't, even achieving that, it was barely staying solvent. So I am not convinced that this project can remain solvent, especially if it's not fully used. One of the things I had mentioned in our Board of Finance meeting is there are some funds from the shows, and I would encourage the nonprofit to maybe use some of those shows and go do a full pro forma using a theater expert, and then coming back and saying, yes, this project's sustainable and here's why. But at first brush of the, pass of the brush, this is not sustainable. And I have to pause that we're asking our taxpayers not only to fund this, the $13 million isn't the issue. Well, it's a lot of money, but if you were to look at it net present value and take it back 20 years, it's really only $700 a taxpayer over the 20 years. So, when you look at it, it's not huge, but what about the operating cost for a project that might not be sustainable? And just bear with me, I'd like to know those full costs. And then lastly, what are those other uses? Because if we block in this $13 million, we've kind of tied up our capital, okay? We've got other items we have to go out for bonding next year. This $13 million's big. There's a lot of other projects that are on the 10-year capital. We've talked about moving City Hall. We've kind of narrowed down our choices without knowing all the possibilities that we could consider. And on top of that, I had learned that after one of the last Board of Education meetings, Chris Wilson had put together a committee to look about using that as a magnet school. So I would like to hear from him if he's gotten any more information that this might be something. And if that goes in, it could carry this building, and it alleviates my concern about sustainability. So I just wanted to share that. I'll be voting no on number 3 and yes on 4 and 5 so that we can take the project to full design. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
2 noes, motion passes. Item number 4.
To adopt the resolution for appropriating $13,287,000 for the Memorial Boulevard Community Center Phase 1 project, and to waive the reading of the resolution, but to include it as part of the minutes.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
All
Can
opposed?
we
No.
get a
Resolution, starting
roll-
off our right.
Roll call.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Chair votes yes, motion passes. Item number 5.
To adopt the resolution for authorizing issuance of bonds or notes in the amount of $13,287,000 to finance the appropriation for the Memorial Boulevard Community Center Phase 1 project, and to waive the reading of the resolution, but to include it as part of the minutes.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, resolution, starting my far right.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Chair votes yes, motion passes. Item number 6.
To rescind the additional appropriation of $2 million within the Capital Projects Fund funded by a transfer in from the general fund.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Item number 7.
To make an additional appropriation of $50,000 within the Capital Projects Fund funded by trust revenue for professional services at Page Park Pool.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 8.
Is the monthly revenue and expense report from the Controller.
Good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to let you know that Diane Waldron was apologetic that she couldn't be here tonight, but she had planned a vacation back in January for this week, so she obviously had a conflict for tonight. For the fiscal year 2007 year-to-date budget report, you probably noticed that there were significant surpluses in our tax collections, which is wonderful news. Over $2.5 million of surplus funds have been collected in taxes. Some of the reasons behind this are we had a greater, larger than normal supplemental motor vehicle tax levy, so then obviously we had greater collections related to that. And we also had Teresa Babin, the tax collector, noted that she's been more aggressive with her foreclosure list. So again, she's collected more taxes on the prior tax levies. We also had surpluses in conveyance tax and interest income. On the expenditure side for fiscal year 2017, we'll have unspent expenditure appropriations, which we typically do have, and those are usually related to unfilled vacancies in the departments. So we don't have any exact numbers yet for surplus, but Diane and I will meet to go over those numbers to come up with an estimate, and then we'll come before the board to make recommendations on how to allocate that. For fiscal year 2018, at the time the report was printed for you, the current year tax collections only showed about 14% of our current year taxes were collected. That wasn't up to date as of the time the report was printed. I looked at the number today, and we've collected about 45% of our current tax levy. And there's still more to be posted. It just takes a little time to catch up with all the processing for all the tax revenue. Two other things, the auditors are out this week, and they're continuing some work that they started in June for payroll and expenditure testing, as well as grant testing, and everything is moving along quite well. And we're also working on our big budget document that we give to you guys usually by the end of the month. We submit that to the GFOA for the award program, so we're working on compiling all the data for that, and then we submit it to the GFOA, and then you guys will get your copy. I noted Orlando's not here tonight, but he did have some questions about the synthetic field, and I know Steve Nimberg was here also about the legal. I don't know if anybody has any follow-up questions from the information Diane had sent out.
I do. Thank you, Robin, for filling in for Diane.
Sure, no problem.
My usual monthly statement here is about the legal bills connected to the complaint against the mayor. And this month, I just confirm with you that the expenses, or the newest reported expenses for this current month were, or actually it's last month, but the one we're seeing tonight is $6,921.
Yes,
Is that what you see?
That's what I have on here, yes.
Okay, and I did speak to Ms. Waldron last week to let her know that beginning in September, I wanted to ask that we be given a summary of the legal bills that are related to this complaint that have been received but not yet paid. And I did tell her that I wasn't sure whether those go directly to your office or somewhere else, and you folks can certainly let me know who I should be calling up about those.
All right. She did mention that to me, so we'll be aware of that for future meetings.
Okay, so we'll ask about that in September. And I did have one more thing that is related, but it's not really a question for you. I just simply wanted to say that people have asked me why we're required to pay the legal bills in this particular case. And there is a statute that requires us to pay the defense costs when employees are sued in the course of their job. And that's Connecticut General Statutes, Section 7-101A. So it just, if anyone's interested in that, that's the answer. Thank you.
Through the chair, Robin?
Yes.
If I may, that $2.5 million you're talking about, is that something how we would apply it to 718 budget?
Typically what we'll do is recommend, as you've seen in the past, we've recommended to allocate some of that surplus so it doesn't hit our unassigned fund balance. So we usually send some money to the sinking fund, which will help our future budget for capital. Like our 17-18 budget, we took all of the capital requests except for Public Works fleet. Took all of like the police cars, fire effort, things like that out of the budget and funded it through the sinking fund so it doesn't affect the mill rate. And we also sometimes recommend sending some money to Justin with the economic development.
As I remember last year, we did some to the sinking fund,
Yes.
economic development,
And
roadway
also
improvements.
Pre-fund,
But that would go through the-
OPEB, our other
Board of
post-employment
Finance.
benefits. We may look at pre-funding some of our pension because we have such a large pension budgetary requirement coming up. So we'll usually get together and kind of look at what our obligations are and what the best way to recommend funding it.
That goes through the mayor's
Goes to the
office to
Board of-
Cheryl, to Board of Finance?
Yes, usually we'll talk to the mayor and Cheryl, then it comes to Board of Finance, then Joint Board.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Robin. Any other business? Motion to adjourn? Move it.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Council meeting will start in 3 minutes.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that the council please introduce themselves, starting my far right.
Calvin Brown, District 1.
Anthony D'Amato, District 1.
Jody Zills-Gagny, District 2.
Dave Mills, District 3.
Dave Pileski, District 2.
Mary Fortier, District 3.
Town Clerk Therese Pack.
Assistant Dawn LaBella.
And I'm Mayor Ken Cockane. We have a moment of silence for the troops on active duty, please. Thank you. Item number 2.
Approval of minutes of the regular city council meeting on July 11th, 2017, and the special meeting on June 28th, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Public participation. Item number, Stephanie Beals. Name and address for the record, please.
115 Country Lane. I'm just representing Millfrac Waste Bristol, and I just wanted to thank the City Council for the work that they've done. Everybody in your support, we really appreciate, especially Ordinance Committee and the hard work that they've done. And we understand it just to be a public hearing, it's date is to be voted on today. We were just wondering, is it going to be published in the paper or in some public place beforehand, because it's for next week?
Through the chair. Yeah, we post it here, and usually on Mondays in the local paper, there's a list of meetings.
Actually, we advertise it as well. It's part
do
of
you?
the, part of the ordinances for
Okay.
my office, yeah.
Okay, in the Bristol Press.
In the Bristol Press, legal notices.
Okay, so I just want to thank everybody again.
Thank you. Thanks, Teresa. Ed Duthko.
You know, I usually start with my joke or ad lib. Oh, don't worry, I'll have a joke maybe in October. I think I'll skip next month. So I'll just read off the text. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know that I've asked for a plaque to honor my family. Keeping intact that prime real estate on Middle Street, the majority of the Southeast Bristol Business Park, 30 acres, and 2 homes were taken against my family's wishes by eminent domain when they were elderly. in their 70s and 80s, residents on that parcel of land for over 60 years. This from a city that calls itself All Heart. How can I explain to my 92-year-old mother she had to move because other people could store their junk in her backyard? Pods, who's there now? Pods creates very little jobs. Never supposed to be a distribution center, but the rules were changed. Put yourself in my family's shoes. You own it, always paid your taxes on time for it, and it's basically stolen from you by a city that markets itself as All Heart. Instead, this prime property goes to a limited liability corporation from Michigan. This will never go away from me. What happened to my family should never, ever happen again to another Bristol family. Now, I understand the present administration had nothing to do with this, but some honor should go to my family while my mother is still alive, especially from a city that proclaims itself to be All Heart. Now, what I do not understand, an email from you, Mr. Mayor, and I got it on July 28th. You wrote the following resolution was passed at the last BDA meeting. To establish a policy of the BDA for BDA administrative property, any and all permanent plaques or symbols of honor or gratitude are reserved for city commissions and city staff that contribute to the project and for individuals or organizations that donate property to the city. And Sean just called my house and I just watched a YouTube video from Mickey, I guess from the BDA meeting, Mickey Goldwasser. And he said, you shouldn't reward bad behavior. Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? So I want to know where my request stands today. And you know, it should be common decency for a city that proclaims itself to be All Heart. Now look, it was a miserable time. The whole ordeal through eminent domain, at least 7 years. As I see it now, in my view, in my opinion, scoundrels, thieves, they get a plaque, while those robbed are just supposed to fade away. I don't want that to happen. And that's it. And also, I'm going to file a freedom of information request. I'll hand it to somebody at the Corporation Council now. I want to see what those plaques cost that you put up. At the industrial, Southeast Bristol Industrial Park. There's 2 plaques there, okay? There had to be a design cost, there had to be a cost to make them, there had to be a cost to install them. So I'm going to file this, I'll hand this over now to the Corporation Council.
Okay.
So,
All right,
thank you.
Joe Geladino.
Joe Geladino, 23 Quarry Lane. Mr. Mayor, council members, police chief, police department, I'd like to say thank you very much for cleaning up Rockwell Park. It's a pleasure to bring your children, my grandchildren there. It was an experience that I've never seen in the last 30 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. And that's all we have for public participation. Announcements, starting my far right.
Yes, one announcement from me, Your Honor. On Saturday, September 9th, the Unity in the Community charity softball game is back. So for those who were fans of the event last year, we're excited to announce that on Saturday, September 9th, the softball game is back. All attendees are encouraged to bring donations in the form of back-to-school supplies. The goal is to fill a police cruiser and a fire vehicle with everyone's donations. If you're a municipal employee, an employee of the school system, or a community volunteer and you're interested in participating in the softball game, you can reach out to Rippy Patton or the police or fire chief's office to get more information. So again, that's Saturday, September 9th, the Unity in the Community charity softball game is back.
No. Councilman?
None, Your Honor, thanks.
Councilwoman?
I have a few. The McCabe Waters Fall Ball is having their sign up tomorrow night at McCabe from 5:30 to 7:30. The West End Festival is happening next Saturday, August 19th at Rockwell Park. The Crocodile Club Luncheon is scheduled at Lake Compounds for Thursday, August 24th at noon. There's going to be a concert on the green, in the Federal Hill Green on Sunday, 8/27. There's a barbecue before the concert starting at 4, and the concert starts at 5. And finally, my favorite day of the year is coming up. The first day of school is August 31st. Thank you.
You say that every year. Councilman.
Yeah, I have two. Basically, they're baseball announcements. As you probably know, the Little League tournament is going on this week over at the Giamatti Center. It's the Mid-East tournament and the New England tournament, and it'll go through Saturday. The final 2 days, I believe, are live on ESPN, which is terrific. And I want to congratulate the Bristol Blues on winning their division, and their playoffs will be this weekend also. So if you're a baseball fan, it'll be an opportunity to get around and see some Little League baseball or some collegiate baseball. So that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Got a couple. The fire department is currently conducting a citywide free smoke and CO detector installation program for all eligible 1- and 2-family homes. The program has been in place for the past 8 months and is made possible by a FEMA grant. Free smoke and CO detectors are installed outside of each separate sleeping area on every level in the home, free of charge by Bristol firefighters on an appointment basis. The detectors are tamper-proof and have a battery life of 10 years. As part of the program, firefighters also conduct a courtesy fire safety survey for each of the homes to point out possible fire safety concerns and to educate residents about matters of fire safety. To find out if your home is eligible and to make an appointment, residents can call 860-584-7964 and choose option 4 to reach the Fire Prevention Division. The best hours to call are between 10 and 2. Chief Kolakowski has put these pamphlets out in the vestibule, so if you'd like to take one, it's very informative, and this is a fabulous program that we should be taking advantage of. And one more, Your Honor. The Bristol Senior Center will host a American Red Cross blood drive on Thursday, August 10th from 11 to 4 p.m. Call the Red Cross or visit redcrossblood.org for an appointment. All presenting donors will receive 1 free ticket to Lake Compounds to be used during this season. Thank you. Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to start tonight by acknowledging the passing of Patty Ewan at the beginning of last month. In 1975, Patty was the first woman to be elected to the City Council in Bristol, and she served as City Treasurer for 17 years. Those things are certainly significant to me as a current member of the City Council, but Patty was also my neighbor for many years, and as she was to many, she was a mentor, a leader, and an example of a dedicated public servant. I knew her as a very strong woman, but a very wise woman with a calm, common sense approach to problems. For me, she was an example of what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I hope I continue to strive to follow her example. I just wanted, again, to mention her because I think she was important to Bristol as well as to myself. Another announcement I have is that the same day as the Unity in the Community event, as we get into the fall, I'm sure our days are going to be packed, but that same day, September 9th, there is going to be the second annual wiffle ball tournament in honor of Jeff Pierce at Page Park. If you want to donate to that charity event or organize a team to play, you can go to the Jeff Pierce Memorial Facebook page. And that's it for me. Thank you.
We have a couple things. You didn't know the movie is being filmed in Bristol, in New Britain. Today they were on Main Street with Melissa Joan Hart was there and Mario Lopez. It's pretty cool to watch them film the movie. I should know the movie. It's something about Christmas, and I can't remember it. Christmas what? Hours. Christmas Hours. And it's going to be a Lifetime movie, so it's pretty cool to watch it happening here in Bristol on our old downtown. And then they were at Supernatural also today and I guess yesterday, so that's happening. On a personal note, many of you know that Jody and I are cousins. Councilwoman Gagne are cousins. And there's been tension between both myself and Jody. This was caused by a family matter that was taken too far and into politics. We are working to move past this and iron out our differences. I want to fully apologize to you, Jody, for any hurt I caused you. And I'm saying this to make amends and any wrongs that have been done. And I hope we can put this behind us and move on, and I sincerely apologize. Thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor? Maybe I'm confused. What does this have to do with city business?
It's just nothing. I'm just apologizing to Jody. It's a personal matter, and we'll leave it at that.
Should I apologize for the time that I fed my broccoli to the dog while my mother wasn't looking? I mean...
If you'd care to, this is the announcements.
Okay. I guess what I'm driving at here is I'm starting to sense a pattern of behavior where there is sort of an inability to separate the personal from the professional. So I just want to get it on record whether or not this was something that we need to know about as a body, and if not, I'm not sure what the appropriateness of bringing it up at a council meeting is.
I just said what I said, and that's it. It's a personal matter. And we'll leave it
Okay,
there.
because I mean, if you want to bring up the topic of your bad behavior generally for discussion at this meeting, there's plenty that we can talk about.
I have no doubt you have. You've talked about it in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the time that you posted a job applicant's private information on your personal Facebook page. We can talk about how unprofessional that was and maybe some of the rules or laws you broke then. We could talk about the way that you continuously try to continue to throw members of the community off of boards and commissions, usually without even telling them that you're going to. Or we can talk about any number of things. But the point is that this pattern of your inability to separate the personal from the professional is embarrassing, and I'm getting frankly sick and tired of the damage it's causing the city of Bristol and its taxpayers.
Okay.
And actually, while I have the floor, Mrs. Ferguson, can you please come to the podium?
Is this an announcement?
I intended to bring this up under new business, but since you decided to bring up the topic of your inappropriate behavior at this moment on the agenda, I have something that I'd like to ask Mrs. Ferguson. Mrs. Ferguson, is it true that in June of 2017, your office was made aware of another sexual harassment complaint involving the mayor?
In June of 2017, Jody Gagney brought a matter to my attention between herself and the mayor. She told me that it was personal and that they were going to be handling it themselves. And that's all I have to say.
That's the position you want reflected on the record tonight? Okay.
Okay, so that's it with announcements. Consent calendar.
There are 6 items. 5A is to place on file the new hire report for July 2017. 5B is to approve the tax refunds dated July 28, 2017. 5C is to approve a tax assessment freeze application for Joseph Giladino and Tricia and Pierre Boucher, owners of 339 Divinity Street, Bristol, for the rehabilitation of a blighted property with the construction of a new 2-family structure per Bristol Code of Ordinances, Section 5-57. 5D is to approve a tax assessment freeze application for Joseph Giladino, Nancy Tofflon, and Tricia and Pierre Boucher, owners of 169 Union Street, Bristol, for the rehabilitation of a blighted property with the construction of a new single-family structure per Bristol Code of Ordinances, Section 5-57. 5E is to approve a tax assessment freeze application for Joseph Giladino, Nancy Tofflon, and Tricia and Pierre Boucher, owners of 204 High Street, Bristol, for the rehabilitation of a blighted property with the construction of a new single-family structure per Bristol Code of Ordinances, Section 5-57. And 5F is to authorize the mayor or acting mayor to sign all documents associated with the State Department of Education annualized grant application for the Youth Service Bureau for the period July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Motion.
Your Honor, can I have a few items removed for discussion? Items C, D, and E, please? Is that in, do I have to make a motion?
So that's fine, they're removed. You have a motion to approve items A, B, and F.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item C, D.
Item C, D, and E, I'm really just going to talk about them basically generally together. When I first looked at the agenda, I thought that I was looking at the wrong agenda that I had clicked on last month because Mr. Giladino had tax assessment freezes last month, so I started looking at it a little more carefully, and what came out to me was 204 High Street, because that happens to be in my neighborhood. It used to be a multifamily structure and a little store for most of my life, and it was torn down by the city, and Mr. Gelladino purchased the lot and built a new building on that property. But my recollection was that it was built 4, 5, 6 years ago, and so I was wondering why there was a tax assessment freeze now, how this program works. And I did call the tax assessor's office, and I know Mr. Donato's out this week, and I did talk to Judy, and she did suggest that perhaps Mr. Moran would be better able to just explain how the program was applied in these cases that apparently the renovation was done a long time ago, and exactly how it works.
Okay, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to wait till Tom comes back?
No, these were a little irregular. They were built previously, and Mr. Gelladino requested that we put them on the agenda for tax freeze. So the whole code enforcement committee voted to send it to Corporation Council to see if it was okay to be able to grant a tax freeze after a year had passed. There's a clause in the ordinance that allows a waiving of that 1 year. We put the 1 year on for just to have some kind of sunset so people wouldn't drag things on and on. But those properties that he did purchase that are on the agenda were severely blighted, and he did such a great job with them that everybody in the code enforcement committee felt that he deserved the tax freeze abatement. So everything checked out. It's allowed under the ordinance to do that. So if somebody else came forward, we'd do the same, give them the same consideration. But it's voted on by everybody in the code enforcement committee.
I understand, thank you. And I did have a question too, again. Normally, under the ordinance, the property would have an old tax assessment because the property was run down, so it had a deflated value, and then they're improving the property and asking that they maintain the same assessment essentially, so that they have pay the lower amount of taxes. So I understand that. In this case, I'm assuming Mr. Gelladino's been paying a higher tax rate.
Yeah.
Is it retroactive now, or is it going forward for the 5 years?
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Tom. I think Tom had to work that out.
Okay.
Since it was granted now, it's not going to be retroactive. It'll probably go, and I'm just speculating, from now for 5 more years.
Okay. And like, again, the 204 High Street property I'm familiar with because I drive by it on a regular basis, and I drove by it my whole life. Is the new amount that Mr. Gelladino is going to pay based on the pre-existing building, the building that existed perhaps 10 years ago, or the vacant lot that he bought?
I don't know. You'd have to ask.
Okay, so that's something we can ask Tom at the next meeting, just so people understand.
Yeah, his formula, he kind of works that part out.
All right, thank you.
We don't have too much to do with that.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. While you're up here, Mr. Moran, there is no council liaison anymore to the Code Enforcement Committee, and we haven't received an update at this body in a while. So when were these matters taken up at the Code Enforcement Committee, as you mentioned? Was this month, last month?
The previous meeting we just had.
Previous meeting. Yeah. Are you having meetings, the Code Enforcement Committee meetings every month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, any other questions?
I believe there was an update last month. I believe I gave a code enforcement
Yes.
update. Any other discussion? Thanks, Guy. Motion to approve items C, D, and E.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 6, committee reports, ordinance. You want to do the resolution? The one that's on, start with the one that's on the agenda. Sorry, I'm lost here. Number 6. Want to introduce this? Yeah. Mayor, there's a a proposed amendment to the Code of Ordinance pertaining to fracking waste. I'd like to ask for a motion to waive the reading. In accordance with Section 21F of the Charter of the City of Bristol, I hereby move that the reading of the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances to be introduced this date pertaining to Section 10 of the Solid Waste Code be waived.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion passes.
Mayor, in accordance with Section 21F of the Charter of the City of Bristol, the following amendments to the Code of Ordinance are hereby introduced. I hereby move that the time and place of Wednesday, August 16th, 2017, at 5:30 p.m. in the first floor meeting room, City Hall, 111 North Main Street, Bristol, Connecticut, be set for the holding of a public hearing thereon by the Ordinance Committee, and that the city clerk publish notice of said public hearing and the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances as required by the city charter.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other committee, where you're there, Councilman?
Let me do my one here.
Yeah, wait here.
In addition to the fracking waste public hearing, I would anticipate that next month as well, or in September, certainly in October, we'll have a public hearing on, Mayor, the tax abatement for first responders, pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes. We'll have a public hearing. The language has been done. We'll schedule that as fast as we can. With regard to the BDA, we've had a very busy agenda. We will get an update this month at the downtown committee meeting with Rendina for the development of the hospital building. And we received a report this past month from Mr. Veselka on the timeline for the proposed roadway through Center Square. The marketing committee has been very active. We've received their agenda for the next quarter, and a tax incentive program is still being developed. We've asked all of the commissioners and the BDA to bring back ideas based on this startup, let's say, language to the to our proposed tax incentive program. Mayor, the only other thing we haven't reported on in a while is our retirement board, and I'm pleased to tell you that our retirement plans have been administered by John Byrne from Byrne Wealth Management for a number of years, and we're really fortunate because a very important component of our AAA bond rating has been, I think, the proper funding of our city pensions. As you all know, or should know, that our pensions are probably among the top 1% in the country. Many towns would be envious of what we've done over the past 20 years. Our total portfolio right now consists of about 58% equities, 25% bonds and credit facilities, 9% of real estate, and alternative investments of about 4.86%. I say that because I think we should have that on a public record from time to time, because we always strive to stay in compliance with our investment program parameters. The other thing I want to tell you is that year to date, our total portfolio has a rate of return of 8.6% against our benchmarks of 7.7, and for the trailing 12-month we have a return on our portfolio of 13.2% over the trailing 12 months versus our benchmark of 10.8%. Our police pension fund is right now at 168.9% funding. And even more remarkably, our fire board pension is at 271.9% funding, which I think are pretty incredible. What we plan to take up, and I talked briefly with the chairwoman Tebow, our city pension right now is at 102.3%. That number's been shrinking because of the I can't think of the word, Robin. Actuarial. I'm going to remember that. Our actuarial projections for retirees and the aging of our workforce. So that's something I think we're going to work on in the next couple of months. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
Yes, I just have one report from the sewer committee, and I know that's probably the most exciting committee that any of us have served on, but we have actually finished an exciting upgrade to the water pollution control facility, which includes the phosphorus removal system and Our committee had a tour last week, and I don't know if Walter wants to give a little explanation just because he understands it without getting too technical. But this was basically an upgrade to our whole water pollution control operation, correct? And it added the benefit of the phosphorus.
Yes, good evening. The phosphorus removal is a tertiary treatment. It's a third stage treatment in the treatment of the wastewater. It came about because of changes in our permit that we needed to change our treatment, and so we have a 50% funding grant to accomplish it, but we're nearing completion, and within the next month and a half we will have substantial completion and it turned over to the city.
Thank you.
And Walt, because we were one of the first in the state, we were one of 3 to get that funding, Walt? Is that right? 3 or 5? I forget what number it was.
It was originally 3, and I think it was boosted to 9.
To 9? Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Councilwoman?
That's it, thank you.
Yes, I have a couple reports. One's from the Early Childhood Committee. As of July 31st, we have 431 children registered for kindergarten. We know there are more children that need to be registered, so they want to encourage families to register their child for kindergarten as soon as possible. As Jody indicated earlier, school's starting soon, so obviously they'd like to get that done. You may or may not recall that they have a centralized registration now at the Board of Education, which is at 129 Church Street, between the hours of 8:30 and 3:30. Also, the School Readiness Program grant was awarded by the Office of Early Childhood. Bristol will be receiving $2.8 million and will be serving 396 children. 229 of these spaces are for full-day/full-year programs, and you can contact the Bristol Preschool Child Care Center or the Imagination Center or the Museum for Early Learning for availability. And 167 of the part-year program at the Bristol Board of Education. If you're interested, you can contact Becca, and centrally located at 240 Stafford Avenue. And all programs have a sliding scale for payment. As far as real estate is concerned, I've got 2 motions, Your Honor. The first is I hereby move that the City of Bristol convey the property known as 384 Fall Mountain Road on map 10 of the Bristol's Assessor's Office for $29,900 and other valuable consideration to Wojciech Tansky pursuant of the attached purchase and sale agreement. I further move that this matter be referred to the Corporation Council, prepare and/or review any necessary documents. I further move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to execute any necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Motion passes.
Okay, and the second motion is I hereby move to grant St. Stanislaus Church permission to use Center Square for parking on Saturday, September 9th, 2017, and Sunday, September 10th, 2017, for an additional parking area of the Dozhinsky, did I say it right there?
Dozhinsky.
Close. Polish Festival. I further move that this matter be referred to the Office of Corporation Counsel for insurance requirements. I further move that this matter be referred to the Department of Public Works to determine the appropriate location for the parking in the Center Square. And I further move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to execute any necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Just for the record, Councilman Pulaski has recused himself from this. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes.
That's all I have.
Councilwoman?
Yes, I have something from the park boards. They are hosting an outdoor movie night. They're showing Lego Batman on Friday, September 8th at Muzzy Field at 6:30. The department is having a movie trailer contest for the best homemade movie trailers that feature the city's parks or programs, and more info can be found on that on bristolrec.com. The summer concert series is continuing. It is Tuesdays, right now as a matter of fact, at Rockwell until August 22nd from 7 to 8:30. On Friday, this coming Friday, August 11th, Rockwell Pool will host Neon Nights from 6 to 9 with a DJ, foam party, and a neon lounge. The outdoor pools will close on both of them on August 20th. On August 21st, there will be a pooch plunge at Rockwell for any well-behaved dogs from 4:30 to 6:30. And there are part-time lifeguards needed for the fall and winter for our indoor pool.
None, Your Honor.
Councilman?
None.
And I have none. Unfinished business, starting my far right.
Yes, I'd like to go on record as saying I don't often agree with the public comments that Mr. Dutko makes, but when he came before this body in June, he very earnestly asked us, not for satirical effect, but earnestly, to consider placing a plaque in honor of his family at the Southeast Industrial Business Park. And for maybe the first time in the nearly 4 years I've sat on this council, I completely and fully agree with Mr. Dutko's comments that if we are going to be the city that proclaims itself to be all heart, we should acknowledge the sacrifice that his family was forced to make. The merits of that aside, his family was forced to make a sacrifice that we should acknowledge in the spirit of being the city of all heart. That's number one. Number two, I am very displeased that it's August and we have not come to any resolution on this. In June, the director of the BDA was not here. That's okay. In July, this matter came up again, and I was assured that the BDA would be taking up the matter in July. And I was also led to believe that Mr. Dutko would get his plaque. And I am disturbed that it appears as though things have taken a turn in the other direction. And I would ask this council to think long and hard about what you want your legacy to be. Think long and hard about what would you do if it was your family. And think about whether or not Mr. Dutko deserves his plaque.
Councilman Plesky, I was unable to make that, but you were at that meeting. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, Councilman, I don't want you to think that your request was disrespected in any way. The BDA board was broached with the topic of a plaque, I think 2 meetings ago, and they asked to review the proposal and bring it up at the next meeting. So they wanted to be able to ask questions, to review what's been done, what hasn't been done, some of the history. And at the last meeting, the board really took a more global approach, I think, in saying that, okay, rather than look at this as a request from the Dutko family, let's take a look at what do we do for any citizen that does something for the city. So that was, I think, the approach that was taken at the time. That language was proposed and is under consideration. But I want you to know that Mr. Malley did bring it to us, and we acted upon it, I think, fairly fastidiously.
That would have been a thoughtful response to Mr. Dutko under public comment tonight. Thank you, Councilman.
I'm sorry I didn't do that. I didn't think about doing that, Councilman.
Councilman?
No.
Councilman?
None.
None.
Yes, I just have one item for Ms. Ferguson.
There's a shock.
Hello. I did see on the new hire report that Mr. Meehan Mihal started on July 17th as the solid waste operations manager. I just want to make sure that actually did happen, and he's still with us, and everything's going well. Okay. And is there been any progress with the upgraded position in the water pollution control supervisor job?
It's been reposted and re-advertised, and we have a couple candidates that we're looking at. No interviews set at this point yet, though.
Okay. And we did say we were going to reach out to the previous candidate who declined to take the job after we had offered it. Have we heard from them?
He is happy where he is.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I have nothing. New business, starting my far left.
I have one issue under new business, and I just want to briefly bring up this issue affecting some of my neighbors. For those who aren't familiar, Carlton Place is a small street that essentially extends Center Street at the end where it meets Goodwin Street. The homes on the southern side of Carlton Place back up against the hospital property. Several of those neighbors have been bothered for some time by excessive noise coming from the roof of the medical office building that is located on the western side of the hospital property. This problem was brought to my attention again last week, and I'm wondering if Chief Gould and/or Guy Moran can give us some information on what is being done. My understanding is that there is some question about the noise exceeding the decibels allowed in residential neighborhoods under our noise ordinance. So I'm just wondering if you can let us know.
I know a lot more than I ever wanted to know about sound barriers after today. There was a problem with noise back in 2015, and one of my workers, Tom Lozier, handled it, and he did a good job on it. There was tons of emails going back and forth to everybody, and it turned out they did take a permit out. They put up a sound barrier that was designed by a local engineer. This engineer isn't a acoustical engineer, though. I called him today, and he said, well, I'm not a sound engineer. So I said, well, okay. Because under the state statute, once an engineer designs something, he kind of takes responsibility for that. And I've been up on the roof, been in the property, and there's a certain location on the property that the noise does seem to travel to. It's funny. Whether it exceeds the decibel amount, we haven't gotten anybody who's certified in a decibel reading to go there and do it. And I want someone who's non-partial, that is certified and licensed to do it and provide a report. So the hospital's agreed to hire a company that's nationally known that are acoustical engineers to do that, and then to do an assessment of what's there. And I have photos if you want to see any of it. It was up on the roof today. And there's a couple issues that I want to get cleared up, and I'm going to stay on it until it's done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Should be taken care of this time, I hope.
Okay,
So,
I appreciate it, because they have been dealing with it for a while. And I had thought it had been dealt with
And
a long time ago.
the Bristol Hospital, to their, I have to speak on their account, and they may not have communicated back to the people who have made the complaint, but they have been very responsive in responding to the complaints. It's just, probably there's been a little lack of communication with the actual homeowner, and they're relying on, what an engineer told them and what, maintenance people are telling them. If you are up on the roof, you can barely hear the noise. But when you go into their yard, which is probably 150 feet away, the noise seems to carry there, which is bizarre. But
We'll be interested to hear
now.
what the acoustical engineers have to say about
Yeah,
this.
I can't wait. So
And one other follow-up, just so you know, I had started my pursuit of this for the neighbor by speaking to Chief Gould, because the ordinance says that police are responsible for, enforcing our noise ordinance. And he and I think, both agree, and he claimed you agreed too, and so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that perhaps we do need a tweaking to that ordinance so that your department can get involved in certain situations like this, where it's not just, a group of dirt bikers or a loud party or a concert or something, like not a one-time event, but
Right.
when it's something attached to a building
Yeah.
like that. So I don't know if we need a motion to bring that to ordinance, or...
I can do that through my office, and I do agree with the chief. And this whole thing, I was part of the evolution of the noise ordinance. We didn't really have anybody to enforce it, and I just started to enforcing it when I was a zoning officer. And when they developed the ordinance, it was thought that the police could respond the best to it. But now we're finding that there's a lot of instances, like this is related to mechanical equipment, which would fall under me. There's issues that might relate to the health department, so we have to try to construct the ordinance so it addresses all those concerns that way. But I actually talked to the chief. We're going to sit down and discuss it, and then we're going to put a resolution to the... But I'd like to do some research with Corporation Council, see what other cities and towns
Sure.
are doing. And
Thank
right
you.
now, we're going to just handle it in the department that, has
It
the most
belongs in,
expertise.
right, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, Guy, isn't some of this stuff covered under the state building code?
See, the mechanical equipment, if it's installed properly, then they don't take into account the noise. So then you have to jump to the health, Department of Health statutes that have noise on adjacent properties. You know, there's a residential property right next to a industrial one. So it doesn't really address that. But I'm working on it because it's just an ordinance.
Through the chair. I just want to thank everyone that's been involved. This incident really started to take place last Thursday. So you folks have jumped through the hoops. Everyone has jumped through the hoops and done a great job trying to address all this. The chief, yourself, the hospital, everyone's gotten involved and tried to do everything. The mayor and I were out there on Friday, or Thursday, I believe, or Friday, to check on it. So everyone has been trying to do everything they can to try to satisfy this and bring it to fruition.
And if I lived in that house and I heard a constant noise, whether it meets the decibel requirement
Right.
or not, I would be concerned too, so.
Right. My point is that just the action that everyone's taken has certainly been appropriate and are trying to do what's done in the situation will get resolved.
Well, thank you.
So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
Councilman, any?
None.
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 None, Your Honor.
This is new business?
Yes.
Sure. So I'm still a little bit confused about whatever that was that happened earlier this evening and the personnel director's response. However, these are the facts as I understand them. A new sexual harassment complaint was made against the mayor in June of 2017. It's August now, and we have not, and by we I mean the city council, have not been kept apprised of that complaint, as I believe the Rose report suggests that we should be. So, given those facts as I understand them, I think this council should convene into an executive session to discuss the complaints, and I think we should do that this evening. And I don't know the procedure if that needs to be in the form of a motion, but consider it in the form of a motion if so.
I would second that.
You heard the personnel director say there's no complaint.
I heard the personnel director say that in June of 2017, a sexual harassment complaint was made against you, Your Honor, and because of the complaints from a year ago, and because of the Rose report, this council should be kept apprised of all of those complaints. And because I am confused, I think this council needs to convene into executive session to make sure that we understand the details clearly. Otherwise, we can discuss right now, as publicly as anybody wants to, as a courtesy to anybody who may be involved. There is a motion on the table for this council to convene into executive session.
Motion
The
made
six of us.
and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. I don't know if I could
Who are
vote
the
on it.
noes?
2 noes, motion passes. So I guess we're going to executive session.
Thank you.
The mayor said no.
Who's going to go at this session?
The 6 councilors, and I think the 6 councilors are the only people that should be there. That was my motion.
Can we do this at the end of the meeting with the other executive sessions? So department heads don't have to sit around here?
I would defer to my colleagues, and whichever they would prefer.
I would suggest we finish the meeting so that the people that are here that would like to leave can leave or whatever.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay, so,
It's fine.
all right, so we're going to have this at the end. And I have no new business. Resignations.
The first is from Jeff Hayden from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The second is from Bruno Chenchilevsky from the Bristol Transportation Commission. And the third is from Steve Vistola from the Bristol Historic District Commission.
Can I have a motion to accept and send a letter of thank you?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Motion passes. Appointments. Building Code Board of Appeals to reappoint Bruce Lightem, 5-year term to 5/22.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion passes. Board of Ethics, Byron Pierce to replace Timothy Kraus, resigned, unexpired term to 3/18. Anthony D'Amato, appointment. That's no confirmation on that one.
Good choice, by the way.
Bristol Historic District Commissions to appoint Patty Philippon as a regular member to replace Steve Vessel, who resigned, unexpired term to 1/21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Planning Commission, Andrew Howe to replace Marie Chase as regular member, unexpired term to 7/31/20.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded, discussion.
If I can just ask, did Marie resign or was her term up?
I believe she resigned.
Chase?
She resigned.
She's moving.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. And I'm going to appoint Tony D'Amato to the Public Works. I don't think that needs to get voted on, does it, please? Does that need to be, Tony D'Amato to the Public Works, is that, Councilman, does that get voted on? Well, let's vote on it.
It is a,
I thought he was on.
yes, it's a board, and he's a voting member, so yes, it would be voted
All
on.
right, I'm putting it back.
He missed meetings?
Yes, he had another, as many of us do, we have conflicts when meetings happen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 11.
Authorization for mayor or acting mayor to execute amendment to purchase and sale agreement by and between the City of Bristol and Bristol Hospital Incorporated.
So moved.
Move it.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Mayor, this is I want the council members to know, this is a technical adjustment based on the results, I believe, of the survey that was prepared that requires a change or an amendment to the contract. And the other thing, as we were getting through the short strokes on the negotiations with the hospital, things got very complicated, as most of us know. I just want to give some kudos to Corporation Counsel because there's a technical maneuver that they've done with regard to that adjoining piece, the railroad piece, that I think is a very good legal move. You guys did a nice job on that one.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say, there's been a lot of ins and outs with these hospital negotiations, and I just want to commend Councilor Perleski for keeping his colleagues so informed on everything in real time as it's happening, so that we have knowledge to vote on items like this. So thank you, Councilman Perleski.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 12.
Award of contract 2C18-3, mechanical improvements at L&P Hubble Elementary School to Save More Heating and Cooling Incorporated for $104,800 and authorization for mayor or acting mayor to execute.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 13.
Award of contract 2P17-136, architectural services relative to improvements at Page Park Pool to TLB Architecture LLC for $46,160 and authorization for mayor or acting mayor to execute.
Move it.
So, second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 13.
14, and that's the executive session, but we also have
You do the addendum.
addenda, yeah. You have the addenda piece here. I don't have the addenda.
To authorize the mayor or acting mayor to sign documents on behalf of BEST for Bristol, a drug-free prevention coalition, to establish a website developed by Rebel Interactive Group. Do I have a,
So
motion?
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay, now item 14 through 16.
Are the executive sessions, and they are, the first is to discuss the matter of City of Bristol versus Timothy Brown, docket number CV16-603-3632, and executive sessions to discuss the following workers' compensation matters: Keith Goodwin versus City of Bristol PMA, claim W000764266, and claim number W001505326, and Eileen Shalkovitz versus City of Bristol PMA, claim W910642507, and the last would be the previous executive session to discuss the complaints and to understand the details more clearly.
Motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
And, excuse me, what about item 16, the 233 agreement?
There is, yep, you're right, one more. Executive session to discuss the tentative agreement between the City of Bristol and Local 233 of Council Number 4, AFSCME. Thank you.
Ed, who's going in?
Mayor, on Item 14 will be our office, and item 15 and 16, it will be the personnel director in our office, and on item 17, you all have fun.
Okay, so let's do 14 first. Motion to come back into session?
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to ask Mr. Attorney Krowicki to explain on record why we were not able to...
First, let's come into record. Let's come into session. We're voting to come into session.
Okay, I figured this would be the right time to explain why we weren't still in executive session, but that's fine.
Well, let's vote to come into
All right, first we're in. Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Now what do you question?
Okay, my question
I
is to...
understand.
let me ask my question for the record. My question, Mr. Krowicki, is for you to explain on the record why this council was not able to hold an executive session tonight to discuss the complaints made against the mayor, according to your opinion.
Under state statute, Councilman, you have a notice requirement that you must provide to people that are being accused of things so that they can make some decisions.
Thank you.
Item number 14. Do we have a motion? Or do any motions come forward?
Yes, Your Honor. I hereby move to approve the stipulation for full and final settlement in the matter of Keith Goodwin versus the City of Bristol and PMA Management Corporation of New England, claim number W000764266 and claim number W001505326 in the amount of $16,000, and to authorize counsel for the City of Bristol to execute any and all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 15.
I hereby move to approve the stipulation for full and final settlement in the matter of Eileen Salkowitz versus the City of Bristol and PMA Management Corp. of New England, claim number W910642507 in the amount of $128,029.03, and to authorize counsel for the City of Bristol to execute any and all necessary documents.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Any other motions?
Number 16.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve an extension to the labor agreement between the City of Bristol and Local Number 233 of Council for AFSCME through June 30th, 2018, and to refer to the Board of Finance for funding.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Have a good night.